Two, one, and we are live. This is the latest episode of Steel Sturzinger. And before we begin, I just want everyone to know that I am sitting here naked, wearing only a cock ring at Anne's insistence.
Is that why you never turn your camera on? I'm starting to think you're on the
I don't
lam,
want the
John.
video to be demonetized.
Right, because you're an axe murderer. I forgot about that. Oh shit, did I say that out loud? Sorry.
Yeah, don't
Blew
worry.
your cover.
Don't worry. They don't know where I live. So anyway, Anne, I see that you've moved into your new luxury condominium.
Yeah. It's about this wide.
It's about this
I'm
wide.
quite cozy.
And could you? You're very dark. And what are you stealing Wi-Fi from somebody else, or?
Well, actually, I am not homeless, as many people would hope. I'm not stealing Wi-Fi from a Starbucks. I am, as the kids. God, these glasses are giving off so much glare. It's almost worse than not being able to look at you when I talk to you. As the kids say these days, I am glamping, but glamping. Glamping. It's supposed to mean camping, but you have like all kinds of. Solitude Surfer says, Anne and John, super duper. Which one of us is super and which one of us is duper?
Anne Catherine
this was advertised.
What is your name? Anne Catherine Francis Sturzinger. Okay.
Yeah, just so nobody mixes me up with the other Anne Sturzinger, who I'm sure is as embarrassed by my activities as I am by the stupid shit that she posts on Pinterest. Hi, Anne. I hate your Pinterest account. It's terribly embarrassing to me. Anyway, I was sorry. I'm underslept and overcaffeinated. We were joking about this last week, but I actually decided to do it because there's just so much gibberish on my social media feed lately that I'm going off the grid for a couple of months. I'm not sure how long.
Yes, Anne is going
2-3
dark.
months.
I'm
going
dark. Is it going dark?
I mean, I'm usually. What's that?
No, I was just gonna clue everybody in. Going dark. That's actually if you read old spy novels, that was a term they used to use. Like if, let's say there was a mole, your cover was blown, you'd go dark because you didn't know, and then you'd like resurface again to reconnect. So Anne's doing this now. A lot of people don't. I told you that a lot of people think Anne's a fiction writer. I mentioned this before. She is not a fiction writer. Now, she changes the details and the locations for security reasons, but she is actually a covert ops spy. That's actually not even her real face. That's computer generated, by the way. But if you've read her novels, you know that's real life. I mean, she saved Paris from.
Yeah, I have accidentally summoned a demon in a blackout drunk.
Yes. That's an episode unto itself.
Yeah, that's actually a compression of several episodes of demonic possession, but everybody probably knew that already. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just saying. So Anne's going dark, but we are going to say that Anne's is going to be engaging in another covert operation in the Republic of Congo starting sometime this week. I can't say exactly when. And we're not sure how long she's going to be gone for. And we're hoping that she's going to survive this mission. I believe you have a way of reaching me in coded messages while you'll be there.
I told you not to tell anyone about that, John.
I said coded. The
FBI is going to be at your door in 3, 2.
Bunch of Virginia farm boys.
I had to quit bouncing my camera around. People are going to throw up. What's that?
No, Virginia farm boys. The Quantico. Anyway, no, but you were talking about social media gibberish. A mutual friend of ours, I just found out a couple hours ago, got kicked off of Facebook. Guess who?
Oh, Andy Nowicki?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always annoy people by guessing things that they don't want me to guess.
How'd you know it was him?
Go on.
Did you see that or?
Because I'm not dark yet. I'm, I'm
Okay, you're
kind
not
of
dark.
weeding some of the nitwits out of my social media accounts so that when I come back, I don't just lose my shit. I like John's fiction writing, but actually, I'm just going out to do some like Rocky Sylvester Stallone type mental preparation in case I have to go to court next year. I'm getting an early start, and people on my social media feed and pretty much the entire internet is just like, dude, I don't have it as bad as Tim Pool does. I think that I love that guy, but I think he's losing his shit. He hasn't. I don't know if he's ever taken a vacation since the age of like 12.
Well, he's only 13, so that's not a long time.
That's true. That's true. A year, not a long time. But I saw one of his videos last night, and he was just like having a panic attack on the air, and I was like, dude, I've been in your position. I've been overworked. Like, slow down before you wind up, I don't know, driving your van off a cliff or something. I don't know if he's already done it, but he had this plan to build a sort of traveling news van, but really it sounded like he sort of planned to go live in the woods because he thinks a civil war is coming. I think, like everyone his age, he needs to take a break from the internet. And actually, people our age are not immune just because we grew up before digital bullshit, which is why I'm going to the Congo. No, actually, I'm just going to be glamping, but I am moving to glamping. I'll let you explain going dark after I get done explaining glamping. Glamping is a new coinage that the kids are using today. Well, actually, it's probably the boomers. Whatever. Fuck everyone. It's a new coinage for going sort of camping. You're sort of out in the woods, but you've got way too many amenities for it to be proper camping. You know, like camping is a tent and a fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
But glamping is an RV with the hot tub in back, and you bring your horses and that kind of shit. This was advertised as glamping. My tent is barely wider than I am, and I the internet, so there might be a delay here. But I'm about to go even darker than that, which is pretty dark considering I'm already a goth. Wow. It's actually too hot in this tent right now for a scarf. It's quite cold for Los Angeles, so I'm wearing my down winter duffel coat. I saw snow on the mountains for the first time in my life today. I was so excited.
Cool. Actually, that kind of makes me scared. You need to take your temperature, because if Anne is, well, I've known Anne for a few years. If Anne is saying that she's hot, that's usually a bad sign, because this bitch could be cold when it's 8 degrees outside.
Yeah, well, it's about 60, so I think it might have dropped to 55. But I've been building up body heat in this tent for a while because I've been working. Instead of, running around in the woods naked like all the other kids in this site. Lots of young people here. Really fun. Love young people, but I need to go someplace more solitary to actually get away from people like staring at their phones and chattering about the news. And oh god, yeah. So I'm off to do the Sylvester Stallone ready to go to court. There's a long backstory to that. People can probably Google it.
Yes, people can Google that. And actually, check out Anne's article. Actually, someone, Solitude Surfer actually mentioned your article in Medium on the Airbnb thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've put out 2 parts to the series. I'm going to put out maybe part 3 before I pull the plug. Maybe 3, definitely 3 and 4 after I come back, maybe 3 before I leave. But yeah, the LA housing crisis and all these kids who want to be movie stars or rock stars or whatever, who wind up living in these Fleabag Airbnb hostels. The last one I was in when I was renting my own place out as a hostel was good, but a lot of them are kind of like death camps for dreams, stupid dreams, but dreams are nice.
Yes, until they turn into nightmares.
Right. Yeah. This town is kind of a homeless people factory. I'm pretty sure most of the people who are living in like worse tents than this that they made themselves on the sidewalk thought they were geniuses at some point.
So I want to clarify: are you in a real tent, like a tent that they'd use to go camping in the woods?
Yep.
And,
Yep. I'm
oh,
in an
wow.
actual tent.
What'd you do? Buy this or what? Okay.
No,
so you-
I'm in a glamping site. But it's not
Oh,
glamping, it's budget glamping, which I don't
so
even
like
know what
you rent the
you would
tent?
call that.
Is it like you rent a tent or something?
Yeah, you rent a tent in a site. It's kind of like a youth hostel, but it's outside. It's a lot of them are in people's backyards. Some of them are just single shot, like people will park their RV in their backyard and rent it out on Airbnb. And they call it glamping, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But you know,
Okay.
I needed a break. I needed a break a while ago, so I did one of those just because it had a fire pit and I felt like burning things. That was great. Yeah, I'm outdoorsy, and thanks, Solitude Surfer. I'm outdoorsy, hiding in a bunch of blankets and my down coat. I picked the wrong time of year to do this, so I might go south. Not literally. I mean, not figuratively, literally.
Okay. All right. No,
Let's
is
move
unique.
on. Yeah. The housing situation in LA is really it's in a serious crisis, and what Tim Pool was freaking out over was there are all these proposals in California cities to sort of round up the homeless and force them to do various things. Like some proposals are to force them to go into mental hospitals, which I don't think that's that apocalyptic because the homeless crisis was, I don't know if he's old enough to remember this, but the homeless crisis was kind of caused by defunding mental hospitals and letting all the like barely functional people out and just letting them into the wild, maybe giving them a little SSI. And what do you know? You've got people who are afraid to be trapped between four walls, living outside on the street, sometimes voluntarily. Sometimes people will try to, I've talked to shelter workers here who, they try to keep people in shelters and they don't want to be there because it makes them paranoid. So it's between the people with mental illnesses and drug problems and the, girls who keep pouring in because they're the prettiest girl in their high school in Kansas and they think they're going to be the next Anne Hathaway or whoever. And then there's immigration, and then there's people having babies, and then there's the fact that there's a lot of LA that's covered in single story housing stock, which means instead of having high rises that can house, thousands of people per block, you have single family housing that can house 10 people per block. So it's a gigantic train wreck. And I don't have enough of a grasp on the situation yet to suggest solutions or even really diagnose what all the exact causes are. If you check out my articles on Medium, the first one is called LA's Housing Hell, or you could just look for me on Medium. Could actually
I'll
look for
link
my
it after the
publication
show.
on
I'll link it
Medium.
after the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's called You're All Pussies. Can I say that word?
Yes,
Pussies?
you can. You just can't show a pussy.
Okay.
Well, actually, you can show. Actually, that's where are your pussies?
You know what? I just figured out why Medium never puts any of my articles into distribution. It's because I named my publication You're All Pussies. Okay, mystery solved. I keep getting these messages on my Medium. We did not evaluate this article for, distribution because of high volume. but that's not what it really means. It means you have an offensive name for your publication. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Maybe, nah. You'd think they would evaluate.
Well, you
one
probably
of
are
them
paranoid, but
just to see.
that's a separate issue. Oh,
True.
there's a
Just
little
because
feedback
you're
going.
paranoid doesn't mean that Medium is not the YouTube of writing.
That's
To-
true. Yeah. Well, the whole
to-
social media platforming thing is reaching critical mass here. But I sent you a video because apparently you're so depressing and you're actually causing cats to attempt suicide now. Did you like that picture of the video?
That was, I have this joke theory about cats like selectively using us to try to get to Alpha Centauri. And I was going to go into it if we ran out of shit to talk about, but it kind of makes me sound even more paranoid if people were to take it literally and not to understand it as a joke, which is kind of what people do these days. They take people's jokes and interpret them literally. Like, oh God, I'm having name aphasia. I forget the name of the politician. There's a politician in Japan who got into deep shit, apparently, a few months ago because he got trashed at some diplomatic talks with the Russians. He drank like 10 glasses of cognac and started talking about how the only solution for Japan was to start bombing Russia. And the American media was apparently tone deaf to this story because apparently I talked to somebody who actually can read Japanese today, and apparently the dude was clearly and the public is going nuts because some political rival of his tried to make a joke into something serious. But if you understand the language, dude was clearly joking. So all around the world, there's this plague of just not getting jokes.
Yeah, I mean, probably this video is going to be banned because we insulted cats. So that's because your theory that they really are using us to go to Alpha Centauri and we expose their plans. But well, there was a joke about cats and dogs. Like, what is it? Dogs have masters and cats have servants.
Yeah. My joke today was, I think I sent it to you when you sent me that video. The video in question is a cat like sort of runs under a bus and snuggles as the bus stops at his bus stop and sort of snuggles under the front wheel like it's about to get run over as the bus takes off. And you see somebody go up to the bus, they're about to like pay their fare and get on, and all of a sudden they see the cat and they turn around and they just like grab the cat and yank it by its paw and save it from suicide. And I'm like, look, yeah, go on.
No, but this cat, it wasn't like it was just next to the tire. It literally almost was trying to curl. I mean, there was no way this cat would have had time to move if the bus went. I mean, it literally looked like the cat decided to kill itself.
Yeah.
And I don't have the function. I haven't figured out enough about StreamYard, so I don't have a premium account yet because we don't have any Patreons yet to play that video. But I mean, the cat wanted to end it all. It's obvious. I mean, you can look at his face. He kind of said, fuck it, I had enough, and I'm just going to end it.
See, what I took out of that video is the cat was just like trying to find a place to hide because he wanted to cross the street, and he maybe had some brain damage like my diabetic cat, and he just thought he would be safe there, and the dude just saves him. And my thought was, humans are the dogs of cats, because that dude was like, Lassie jumping into the stream to like pull out the drowning boy. Where not only do we serve them, we're now jumping into the water to pull them out and save their lives.
Yeah, but I still think you're wrong. I think that cat. I mean, I look at his face. You could tell he was depressed. The facial expression on the cat. You could tell he had enough, and he's like, "Fuck this! I'm just gonna end it all." Like he was walking down the street. It was a busy street. And he's walking down the street. You could tell he was just like, "Screw this!" He was walking around. No one gave a shit. He had no friends. Probably, he probably had spent like all day on the incel forum, and he was really depressed. And the bus pulled up, and you could tell. And he just said, he just waits for it to stop. He runs right under. He just gets right under the wheel, like really snuggled in. And he's just like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna die." And you look at his face. You can tell that's a hopelessness on that cat's face.
Oh God, that cat is how Tim Pool is going to end up if he doesn't take at least a day off. I forgot what I was going to say. I need some sleep.
And I'm gonna ask like my buddy Luke to like put that cat's depressed face in front of Tim Pool and have that little cap that Tim always wears. I got to watch some Tim Pool lately because I think I do follow him on Twitter, or I used to, unless he blocked me, because I kind of got angry at him because he was constantly saying all this craziness about leftists. And I said, well, then why do you self-identify as a leftist, which he does?
Because why do Americans criticize other Americans? Why do French people criticize other French people? Because you get more frustrated with people you're familiar with, especially, if you're supposed to be working for a common goal. And the whole point of joining a political team is to work together for a common goal. So he's frustrated with them for acting insane. I mean, I don't want to be one of those idiots who calls an election without knowing anything about politics, really, but it kind of looks like this whole attempt at illegally sort of removing Trump from office with, people lying and corrupt FBI shit. It kind of looks like they've won the 2020 election for him, whoever they run, unless it's like the one Democrat I instinctively want to listen to. What's that?
No, I don't know if you saw this viral video of Joe Biden literally, like, I swear to God, I was waiting for him to say, "Does anyone else smell toast?" I mean, he lost it. He's having this talk, and I'll have to send you the link. I wish I had beforehand, because normally we do huge show prep for this, but we didn't. We haven't done it. But he's gone upstairs. I mean, literally gone. Like there's nothing between the ears anymore. It's blank. Continue.
Maybe he ran out of pot.
And he's got. There's nothing there. I mean, if this guy gets on a debate stage with Trump, they're gonna have to throw. I mean, it's like a fight that they stop. It's going to be that bad. Like, no, stop the fight. Stop the fight. It's, that's what it would be like.
He's bleeding from his rectum. Stop the fight.
Yeah. I mean, it would just be, I don't think he even knows where he is, or I don't think he knows who he is at this point. I mean, he's literally losing IQ points by the minute. And let's be honest, the guy didn't have a lot to start with. So it's not.
Well,
it's not like he was
president and the president. If you're the vice president, and when you make your run for president, your presidential colleague won't, rubber stamp your campaign, you've clearly got some issues.
Yes, and he does, and then on top of his dementia, there's all this crazy shit with his son. And I'm not even talking about the Ukraine thing. I think his son knocked up some chick, and he's as a baby mama now. And there's like a child custody thing, so they want his fight. The son, Hunter is his name. His son's name is Hunter. They want his finances, but they don't want them to show the finances because apparently he was getting money from like the Ukrainian government or something. Like, so it's gonna be funny.
I've got the feeling that aside from the dementia, the Ukrainian corruption was the reason Obama didn't want to go near him. I mean, you work with a guy for 8 years, you got to know a little bit about his
sleazy financial activities. And Obama probably knew about that. I'm just speculating, but my guess would be he knew about that and he was like, back away from the Biden, back away from the Biden.
Well, I mean, just a quick aside.
That's what I do.
This isn't really funny. This isn't really like funny, but this is just like, I'm dating myself now. But I remember like reading about the way presidents would choose their VP. And actually, it wasn't really the president himself who would choose it. I mean, I guess he'd had to sign off on it, but the presidential nominee would choose a VP. But the way they would do it, like I remember reading about the Kennedy election, which was very close. I mean, the only reason he won it really was because what did he have? Chicago, that was corrupt and they paid everybody. So they stole this Illinois, but they were really, because back in those days, that was in
changed much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, Chicago is still, but back in those days, people very much, 1960, people very much had an identity of where they lived. Like people weren't as transient as they are now. So if you were a Northeasterner, you were a Northeasterner. If you were a Southerner, you were a Southerner, whatever. So the reason they, who was the fuck that
Someone who is sleeping in a tent, I am offended by the word transient. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. No, but his VP was Johnson. And the reason they picked him, well, he had been running for president, obviously, so he was well known, but he was from Texas. So the idea was Kennedy turned a lot of people off. Also, back then, most people didn't have TVs, which is really going back, right? So Kennedy's voice, if you ever remember any of the speeches, was very Bostonian, shall we say? And it turned a lot of people off when they used to hear him speak because it was this Northeastern Boston accent. A little bit like mine, but not quite, because I'm in New York kind of a thing. That's a pig. But anyway, I'm boring people.
No, I'm boring people. Sorry, I've been verbally sparring with my hairdresser all day.
You have a hairdresser?
I finally found a hairdresser. Yeah, I finally found one here. Yeah. He's the guy that I wanted you to he's living in one of those Airbnbs doing the same job that I was after I got out of the hospital when I had typhus. Actually, that's in my Medium story, that whole tale story.
I like the Polish lady. See, I actually read shit that people send me, and if you haven't read the article, you're not going to know about the Polish lady. But see, I'll say one thing that sucks about having a lot of friends who are writers like I do is you feel obligated to read all the shit that they write. I mean, you probably say fuck it, right? You don't read everything that your friends write because your argument is, oh, I'm writing. But I'm a reader, not a writer, so I don't have an excuse.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, being a writer leaves you with very little time to read. And ideally, people who become writers become so because of reading. So the people who make those are the ones who don't mind not being able to read. But
let me digest. I got to mention.
I have certain art. Yeah.
I got to mention.
Well, it's kind of the same. Okay, well, I'll go on talking so that we don't have dead air while you mentally digest that. It's kind of the same thing as the sort of dystopian way the internet sorts artists. Traditionally, people who make art and write are a little bit solitary, a little bit introverted, like to be left alone to think. And the people who succeed the most easily in the internet age are the people who like to hang out in chat rooms and stroke a lot of egos and suck a lot of metaphorical and possibly literal cocks and pussies in the same episode 3 or 4 times now. Okay. Oh, what words can't I say?
You can say whatever you want. You can't threaten. You can't make any. You can't incite violence. You can't threaten anyone. You can't dox. But and you can't, and no nudity.
How is
or
that not
anything.
cleared
Sorry.
out half the population of the internet? Wait, what's that?
No,
What's that?
nothing. I'm just echoing a bit in your background there. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. It's a very professional show, but she's glamping. What I mean is on YouTube, that's their thing. Is as long as you're not nude or threatening or now they're changing everything though. Like there's all sorts of. If you read the terms of service for YouTube, they can pretty much cut you off just because they don't like your political opinions. But other than that, you can curse and swear all you want per se, as long as it's within context. Like if you had a half-hour stream, you just said the F word the whole time, probably not. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people these days seem to be worried about getting demonetized just for like saying certain words.
Well, they did have the new rule
anyway,
about child-friendly. You have to designate your channel if it's not child-friendly, which they put in such vague terms that you have to designate it as not child-friendly, and if you don't, they will delete you.
Huh. That's probably because of all those bizarre Peppa Pig videos that went up. I don't know if you know about this story, but Peppa Pig is like...
Go ahead.
Peppa Pig is this popular children's cartoon that some fruitcake made a bunch of YouTube videos of using the character, but they reanimated it to have Peppa Pig like being killed in various ways. I think she went to the dentist and was just crying, and it's just the most bizarre mind-fucking stuff. And kids were watching this and people were freaking out because Peppa Pig go to the dentist and like cry for like an hour. I'm not being terribly accurate here because I read this a while. Yeah, I think that might have been the source of that. Or
perhaps, but
swearing
there's a lot of
adult
other
content
on the internet.
Oh, like porn, right?
Well, no, not that's not allowed on. That's never been allowed on YouTube, as far as I know. But there's other things. Well, all right, porn, for example. Like there is a YouTube. Chris used to play this. Like he played it for too long. But sometimes where they would interview porn stars, but they'd be fully clothed and they wouldn't be engaging in sex acts or anything, but just interviewing them and asking them questions, and they would curse and stuff like that. But some of them were wearing very I don't know. Maybe it was like on a set where they were interviewing. I don't know. But
so how does that girl who got people sick drinking her? Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was asking, how does that girl who got people? There was somebody who got people sick by selling her bathwater. She was, she dressed like an anime cartoon and dyed her hair pink and, used a cute little voice and probably had a lot of plastic surgery. And a lot of people had a crush on her. She basically made her living by, being sexy and wearing skimpy outfits and basically kind of a softcore YouTube cam girl. And she started selling her bathwater for people to drink or do whatever they wanted to do with it. And a bunch of people.
What moron is going to drink anybody's bath? Even you drink your own bath, where you get there's soap in it and dirt. That's stupid. That's not her fault. Why do they want her bath water anyway, though? I don't get it.
I don't know. I don't know why people do the shit they do. That's why I'm going dark.
Yeah. No, some. I don't know. It's like some fetishes I can kind of get. Like they may not be my thing, but. I get it, but bathwater? How? What? It doesn't work for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a fetish or if they just wanted to have some sort of intimate contact with her via their mouths. I don't know what she intended for them to do with this bathwater. Maybe somebody made some comment on her site like I pay $1 million just to touch your bathwater. And she got an entrepreneurial idea and it all went south from there.
Solitude Surfer.
She's still making money, but
Fruitcake or Fruit Lord?
oh yeah, Fruit Lord. Thank you, Solitude Surfer. Yeah, I made up a word, Fruit Lord. It's people who have crazy opinions that just will not change, which is about 99% of the population. But I'm talking about extreme cases. I have an article about that on Medium too. It's featuring Rick Mayall if you're a BBC sitcom fan.
I haven't read. Actually, I was talking to. Do you know British James?
Who?
British James.
No.
Oh well, no. He's a fan of the Beckloff. He watches this stream. He knows me, and he likes. He knows all those shows that you were talking about, the BBC. He wants to be on like when you're on your secret mission, because he wants to talk about that show you asked me. Did I ever see? It was a sci-fi BBC show, and then
Red Dwarf.
Red Dwarf. Yeah, he knows all that shit. So he wanted to be on a show with you.
Yeah, have him on.
Okay. All right.
Oh, that might be okay. I don't know. That might be a guy, but I know, but I don't know him as British James.
Well, he's a British young guy in his early 20s who's British.
He's Scottish?
No, technically he's Irish, but he lives in. I mean, racially he's Irish, but he lives in.
Okay, what? Okay, this is we're being really racist against the British Isles now because we just assume that everyone who is a Red Dwarf fan who knows about us is the same person. Is that racist? I don't know. Are we going to get pulled off the stream?
I don't know. I mean, there's like, how can you? But you said something I wanted to interject on earlier when you're talking about Tim Pool. You said that people attack like their own in group. You know, like the French complain about the French American. I would disagree with that because there's never been a time where I've ever attacked a fellow Nazi nihilist, I should say. So I would take exception to that.
That's what you're calling yourself now?
For the purpose of this
joke?
show. And when I mean,
great.
I everything I said is a joke except the part about being naked wearing the cock ring. That's actually true. By the way, this thing is fucking tight. Jesus Christ. Hold on I think there's a way to adjust it.
Well, you need to either stop using the penis pump or buy a bigger cock ring.
I need to. Well, it has like a couple of. I got a pinch. Hold on. Jesus. All right, hold on. Oh, okay, man, that's not too bad. My God. Be careful with these. They should have.
All right, show interrupted to adjust cock ring, and this isn't porn.
It's not porn. I'm not showing it. I mean, people use cock rings. Yeah, but
not usually for podcasts.
Well,
do you know what a cock ring is for, John? It's not a microphone.
Yeah, it's no. But it said on the thing. It says it's to keep you focused while working. And so I think this is a good
I think
thing
you might have. Right. I think you might have not opened the envelope all the way, and it might have said like while working on your girlfriend and or boyfriend and or orgy team. That would be my guess.
Are you saying people use cock rings like when they're having sex? How the fuck are you supposed to fuck with this thing on? Jesus Christ. Oh, man.
I actually had a roommate. John may or may not be kidding because I can't ever see him. So all I have to look at is either myself and I know what I look like, or this blinking camera eye, which is creepy. Oh geez, what's going on over there? What was I saying? I'm so
something
tired.
About cock rings.
Oh yeah, I was telling you, John may or may not be kidding, but I actually had a roommate who got a cock ring lost in his girlfriend for like a week. Like they couldn't find their cock ring and they were totally mystified. These were the same stoners who ruined my first ever chance at becoming movie literate by breaking my TV VCR that I'd saved up for months the day I bought it. These stupid motherfuckers, he lost his cock ring in her, and she had, I don't know what was wrong with her that she had no job. It up there for a week before it fell out in the toilet and they figured out where it had gone.
Well, so much for eating dinner after this stream is over. You reminded me of a gross story. No, I have a friend of mine that's a doctor. I might have mentioned him to you or mentioned in a previous live stream. And if anyone who's a doctor or even not a doctor, if you worked in an ER or whatever, they always have gross stories. But one of the most common things in that's a side thing. I was going to say one of the most common things in ERs are what they call foreign object insertions. This happens all the time in ERs.
Really?
Well, yeah, it does. And I heard this from one doctor. I gotta go dark. Yeah, you got. I heard this. It was another guy. It was a very, very close friend of mine. I've known him now for 30 years, actually. So, I mean, I knew him since I was in college. Not quite 30? It's 25. But he was a security guard in an emergency room back in his 20s, and he used to tell me like the craziest stories because it was in Miami, so it was all like in a level 1 trauma unit. But the other one about the cock ring thing was, so buddy of mine, he has his own practice, and a woman came in who had this extreme. She was having like vaginal discharge and extreme odor problems. And according to him, this was a very professional lady. Like this is not like a Medicaid type of doctor. And because me, I only go to the best. And
so this wasn't
like your heroin roommate that destroyed your VCR TV thing. This was like a professional woman, like a lawyer or something. And so she came in and she was terribly embarrassed by this. And he said like the odor was so bad he had to put on a mask when he was doing the vaginal exam. And so he went in, so to speak, and it was a tampon she forgot to pull out.
Oh God.
That, which according to him, you can die from. There's
it's called it's called toxic shock syndrome. They teach it. They teach girls about it in junior high before we're supposed to start using tampons. Like I don't know how you had sex ed, but we would divide the boys and girls up. They'd explain a few rudimentary things to us before anyone like started bleeding and freaking out in class. They're like, you can't leave a tampon in for more than overnight because otherwise you could die. And we were all like,
I'm gonna use maxi pads. But yeah,
well,
to him,
I want to. Okay, TMI.
I don't want to hear about your choice of feminine hygiene products. All due respect, Dan. I mean, I love you, but not in that way. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, he actually said that you could die from this. I was like, really? He's like, oh yeah. And but apparently, whatever. I guess he just gave her some. I mean, there must have been like major bacteria going on. I guess that's what the smell was from, or whatever. And I guess he just gave her some antibiotics. I don't know how you treat something like that. Moved it, and I guess she was okay. But
basically, she had rotten blood inside of her.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ugh. Anyway, okay. Back to suicidal cats. Let's. I'm trying to think of something.
Actually, this reminds me of the argument I had with one of my what's that?
Good.
Sorry. We're getting so much dead air because of the delay, because of the shitty internet in glamping. It's time I pull the plug. I think I'm going to pull it Wednesday. Anyway, that reminds me of the argument I had with one of my Solitude Surfaces. I think he just stumbled upon the title for this episode. Does he mean glamping, or does he mean lost cock ring or toxic shock syndrome? Please do specify. But this reminds me of the argument over Julian Assange that I had with one of my internet pests that put me over the edge. pests that will write posts full of like emoticons that laugh at their own stupid jokes. And I'm trying to explain that Assange this is horrifying. For the crime of, whistleblowing on government corruption, I mean, some people will disagree with me and say that he's a spy or whatever, but basically I consider him to have been a journalist who maybe crossed a line, but some of the shit he found was pretty, I don't want my government doing that, and let's have a little bit of transparency here, folks. I forget where he was first exiled, but I forget how long he's been in jail now. I'm insane myself, but he's been locked up for a long time. And apparently he was too ill to appear at his latest court appearance. He's being held in the UK right now, awaiting extradition to the United States, and God knows what awaits him here. But between the mental illness caused by being shut up in an embassy and being accused of smearing his feces on the wall, apparently that was a false rumor, being in solitude, maybe having a food loaf shoved under his door. He's not even for a regular prison where he could have social contact with other prisoners. He was basically in solitary confinement. So he might have gone mad. He also has apparently some kind of dental infection, and the doctors are saying that without treatment, he will probably die soon. And I was trying to explain, this might sound light and silly, but sepsis by dental infection can kill you really fast. It can cause cardiac issues, which, if your heart stops beating, that's pretty much game over. And it can also get up into your brain because, as we all know, your mouth is way too close to your brain for people doing their mouths off with their ass the way we usually are. Can I say ass? And
yes.
I was trying to explain to this dipshit that Julian Assange could easily die from a tooth infection, and he's posting all these the idea of a tooth infection. And I was like, just Google death by tooth infection, and then please cancel your internet and just run off into the woods and go away. And that was kind of the last straw for me. I was like, you know what? I can't force all these people to break their internet connection, so I'm gonna have to break mine for a while.
Well, no, I remember actually that makes sense because you posted a tweet citing people who laugh at their own jokes with emojis. But what you just said is true, and I can back this up. Not specifically a dental infection, but I told you I got into a fight, a bar fight, and I had my nose broken, but I didn't know my nose was broken like when I got hit. Right, so I went home after the fight, and I blew my nose. Now it's like I'm like drunk, and it's like 3 a.m, and I was like 20 years old, and I blow my nose, and the side of my nose was my right side of my nose was broken. So when I blew my nose, all the air shot into my right cheek and blew it up. Like think of like having like a tennis ball, like. But then, like, also think that it's 3 a.m. and you're totally shit-faced, and you just want to crash because you got into a big German fought too. Funny thing, this guy became a cop, and this guy was bigger than me. And he was about 6'3", and he was built. And
well, see, I don't know how big you are because I've never an ex-con. No, you're not an ex-con. You're on the lam. Sorry, I got my stories screwed up. I'm
6 feet. But anyway, so okay. I felt I just went to sleep, right? So I woke up the next day and I went to the like the emergency room, and they were like, "This is really serious." And I was like, and he's like, "Yeah, could you they gave me I think it was called Keflex. I think it's generic now, but back then that was the brand name of it. It was a drug to fight infection. Then I had to go and get all these weird X-rays up my nose and go to the ENT guys and all that stuff and everything, but. I had insurance under my mom's work back then, so it was no big deal. But yes, you can die from an infection.
It was no big deal to have your. Yeah, yeah. If you have an infection anywhere in your head, go get it fixed now. Especially if you're Julian Assange, but he can't do that. Oh God, the other thing this idiot was saying was, oh, Julian Assange can buy the best dentist in the world with all the bitcoins his followers are sending him. And I'm like, you fucking idiot. Have you ever tried to buy anything from inside a locked institution? And then he went rambling about some people he fought. I don't even remember. It was complete gibberish. I don't want to make this whole episode about me going dark, though, and the various reasons, because, you know, basically it's people and people all being able to talk at once. And most people have jack shit to say. So I'm going dark because I am one of those writers who enjoys being left alone to think and to write. And that's what I'm going to do.
That's what Anna's going to do.
What did you have on the agenda? What did I have on the agenda that I keep interrupting?
I don't know, and I don't think it really matters anymore. But that's okay. Let me think of something else clever to say. I'm sorry, we talked about like such bizarre shit, which is good. That's why, you know.
So all the show prep we. What's that?
All the show prep I did. What was I going to say? Oh, yes, there was something I want to talk about. Actually, I want to do a serious stream with Andy Nowicki. I saw this as a book I'm reading right now. I don't know the title. I'm reading the digital version of it. I think it's called the Myth or the Illusion of Free Will. And it's actually extremely fascinating about whether or not we actually have free will. And here, stay with me here. Like the idea of consciousness, like self-awareness, like that there is the idea of the self and the mind and the brain was kind of the language that they were using in this book. So that the mind is not real. It's an illusion, but it's an illusion. It's not real. And one of the fascinating studies they did was hooking people's brains up, like literally like hardwiring their brain. Like this one chick, they did it on, she had epileptic surgery, like epileptic. So it wasn't just like they put the thing on her head. They actually hardwired this contraption into her fucking brain. And they literally, the guy could tell which hand you had to like go your right, left, or your right hand or your left hand, like lift it up and tap it. And the guy would guess which one you were going to do. And he could see it on the screen before she knew what she was going to do. Like it was like a half a second before she did it, her brain had already decided it. Like, how do I say this? Before she was consciously aware of her choice, he could see what her choice was before she knew what her choice was. Did that make any sense at all?
I guess that makes sense. Well,
but
it takes electrical impulses time to travel.
Right, but the point is,
and also,
the point is that you being the idea of consciousness is a false belief that we have, like sentience, being aware that you're alive, is really just you reflecting back on things that your brain things that would happen to you anyway. And so it's kind of trippy because if you think pretty much everything you are is, how do I say this, is predetermined by things that are totally outside your control, like your genetics, your parents, right? Totally outside your control. Hormonal fluctuations in utero, when you're gestating inside your mother, then your early upbringing. And then like when you actually become self-aware and can make choices, you don't really have any choices left. Make sense, or is way too deep?
No, it makes sense, but I'm afraid you might have just talked all of our viewers into going out and buying a crack rock because it doesn't matter.
Pretty much, even things like willpower. Like there was a study that they did on people, like where they would have them put their hand in like freezing water and how long they could stay in it before they had to give up. And one of the things they would take a group of people, like that 100 people do that, then they had another 100, and the average length of time was like 1 minute 15 seconds. And then they had another group of people, and before they did it, they had to make a bunch of choices, like filling out a questionnaire or something. and then they had them do it, and their time that they could stay in the freezing water was 20 seconds less on average than the other people who didn't have to make a choice. So it's basically saying that making choices exhausts you. I mean, I'm getting way. It's crazy deep shit, man. But anyway, because the reason it's so fascinating to me is I was.
That book. Go on. Sorry. I was just going to say that sounds familiar. And I think Sam Harris might have talked about this book or one similar to it, but go. I think it was him. Check it out. Google him. Go on, John. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I did listen to a Sam Harris thing too. That's how I think that's how I ended up finding the book. I went on one of those YouTube rabbit holes where you're Googling, like, I don't know, like how to make how long you should cook your turkey, and before you know it, you're like watching videos on whether or not there's such a thing as free will or not free will. But I was always this anti-determinist type of person. Like, I always believed in like the concept of free will. I hated this idea of determinism. But then like the older I get, the more I'm thinking, nah, really, you're pretty much, it doesn't really matter what you do.
Dead air for meditation time.
Yeah, no, I mean, meditate on that. But actually, could you talk and entertain people? Maybe show your boobs or your cleavage, because I'll be right back.
I can't take my shirt off. It's
no, I know that.
I'm teasing. I just took my coat off because it was.
Call a 30-second story. I'll be right back.
What's that? A 30-second story. My mind flashes back to the dude who lost his girlfriend's cock ring, and the couple who lost their cock for, what was it, a week? I also had another roommate at that house who, I think he's in prison now for 15-year-old girl or something. But he was such a jackass that he would get beaten up so badly that people would throw him through plate glass windows. And he came home one day and he had this handful of pills. I don't know what they were, but he showed them to everybody in the house and taunted us all with the fact that he had drugs and we didn't. And then he swallowed them all. And he laid down in front of the toilet for naked. I mean, nobody wanted to look at his cock because he was quite the specimen of humanity. But if we wanted to use the shower or use the toilet, we just had to walk over him. I don't know why any of us didn't have the common sense to call an ambulance. Well, I don't know why Psycho roommate didn't have the common sense to call an ambulance when I'd been laying in bed for a week and not moving either. But youth, except Psycho roommate was, 35? Way too old to not. Anyway, I was 21 at the time. And also, well, you would have to have known Nigel, but one great quote, though, and I repeat this often. He, at one point during his downward spiral into increasing insanity, he had a moment, maybe this was his consciousness trying to tell him that he had free will, that he could choose to dig himself out of the hole, literally and figuratively. Figuratively. I don't think he ever dug a hole in the yard and laid down in it, but I wouldn't have put it past him. Anyway, he used to say, no, he said it once. He had this moment of clarity and he said, "Would someone please take the shovel out of my hand?"
There you go. I like that.
All of the roommates looked at each other. Yeah. Would someone please take the shovel out of my hand? And we all looked at each other. And I think this was at the point when he had holes in the back of his head because somebody had thrown him through a plate glass window. Everyone else in the room just looked at each other and we were like, "Nigel, if only we could wrestle that shovel out of your hand, we would beat you to death with it."
Sorry, audience members. I just had to take off that fucking cock ring. It was just killing me. So that's where I had to go. It's off now, and I will read the instructions this time, man, before I put it on again. I promise. Yeah, forget about it. It's more distracting than focusing your attention. It doesn't focus your attention in a good way. It just distracts you. So be careful about Cochran's.
I don't think you read all of the instructions.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it has some utility in some other way, but not for that. But anyway, I know what I was going to talk about. I was watching a video on inceldom. Now, if you ever, I'm just saying, if any guys listening and if you feel bad about your life, just watch these fuckers and it'll cheer you up, because you'll be like, no, I'm nowhere as fucked up as things are. I'm nothing like these guys. And this is some of the most pathetic shit you can ever imagine. These guys are just, I don't know why they don't just get the shovel, because it's, wow, unbelievable.
Wow. Watching any incel videos. I did do on my YouTube channel, which probably is shadow banned or whatever the YouTube equivalent is because of all the words I've used. I don't know if I'm paranoid or if I really do swear, if I really am that annoying and offensive to people that YouTube, somebody at you medium, but again, just no. But I'm becoming incoherently tired at this point. No one wants to listen to my shit anymore. What was I saying?
Your channel might be shadow banned because you curse too much, or something like that.
No, that's what I was actually talking about.
Incel videos.
So what did you actually talk? Oh yeah, incel videos. I've never actually watched incel videos, but on my YouTube channel, where I keep getting like copyright strikes and shit, it's just random. For like scraps of songs I put in there, and then suddenly I'll have videos that won't play. I'll try to link to them and they're just gone. But if it hasn't been eaten by, whatever kind of devouring maw YouTube has turned into, there's a video on my channel where I actually have Andy Nowicki and Anita discuss incels. People who are watching this show probably know who Andy Nowicki is. He's the author of Columbine Pilgrim, an old friend of mine. We were both published by the same publisher for years, and we were the only two people in the United States to ever have a civil debate from either side of the abortion, from both sides of the abortion issue. Well, I'm sure there were a couple of people maybe in like New York or Ohio or someplace. But anyway, I had him. Anita Dalton she considers herself a feminist, but she's not a crazy person. She's like a old school feminist. She just thinks everyone should be treated equally. And I thought it would be interesting to have someone who's Andy is not an incel himself with children, not the excellent TV show, but the state of being. And but he has a lot of sympathy for incels, because I think he had a difficult high school experience and he's in a lot. So I had the two of them, and all I know about how weird incels are is Anita's sort of, she's very witty. She writes, oh God, aphasia, so bad at the word aphasia. Just Google Anita Dalton. I think her website is called Odd Books. She has a book out with the same publisher as published Andy and myself, 9 Banded Books. I'm not just saying that because she reviews a couple of my books in it. She's an excellent writer. She's very witty, and her take on inceldom is just, it's not what you would expect from a millennial feminist. It's more of a sort of distanced, stereotype. I'm so sick of generational. It's okay. I'm stammering it in.
Well, I think you were
Talk
going
about
to say you were sick. You were sick of generational astrology. That's coining the phrase from Jim Goad.
Yeah. Well, I got sick of it about the time everyone noticed that Generation X was there and it started attacking us. So I'm just sick of people attacking me, probably.
Yeah, I don't necessarily
But
mind
astrology
people
wasn't the word I
attacking
was
me
talking about.
because I like because when people attack me, it means I'm legally allowed to kill them. So anyway, but go ahead. You were going to say.
Right. I guess I'm not sick of people attacking me either. I don't really give a shit anymore. I'm sick of the whole internet. That's why I'm going dark. I'm sick of
Yeah,
people's stupid arguments. I'm sick of one team or another, and instead of thinking rationally about the issues, just picking the blue team or the red team and rationalizing their way into matching the opinions of their team, whether it matches facts or not. I think it was back to Sam Harris. I think it was Sam Harris who said it's absolutely unbelievable. Know a person's opinion on one issue, you can probably guess all other issues.
but there's probably some truth to that.
And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Sick of it all. So, going dark.
Okay.
Wow, I said I was not going to make the show all about me going dark, and I made it all about me going dark. But you know, bring it back to that cat. That cat needs to get off the internet.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
what it
if
was.
cats are suicidal, it's because they've taken over the internet and now they regret it.
Well, if you watch the video, and I'll
They're
link
like-
to it in the description because just so people know what we're talking about if they view this in posterity. But if you look at the cat's face, you can kind of see in his eyes that he probably had been watching. His kind of bloodshot eyes the cat has. That he's probably been watching too much internet, and that was probably one of the cofactors that led him to want to commit suicide.
Yeah, the
I mean,
cat's
that's
been
what-
watching Tim Pool have a slow motion nervous breakdown, and the cat's like, "Yeah, it'd be a civil war too. I'm going to just throw myself under this bus." But yeah,
does
the
Tim
cats
Pool
took over
actually
the
think
internet.
there'd be a civil war?
And what's that?
Does Tim Pool actually believe that
Shit,
there is
technical
going to be a civil war?
Yeah, that's why he is. I'm not sure what degree he's joking or to what degree he's certain, but he's afraid there's going to be a civil war. So, and this is just what I gather. I haven't interviewed the guy. I don't know him personally, but from watching his videos, which are full of good journalism and information, but they're also full of someone working himself to death. Just guessing by his videos, he's building this news van, or maybe he's already got it built, half so that he can go on location easily, ask his listeners for airfare all the time, and half so that he can escape into the woods if, you know, the blue team and the red team finally decide to pull out the muskets and go at it.
Well, I'm actually think that a civil war or any large scale conflict or any mass casualty event would be a good thing, because I think the world needs a culling. And also, if there's a war, the majority of the people that would die would be men. So that would solve the incel problem. So it would kind of be two birds, one stone kind of thing.
Oh yeah, we could go back to a happy state of polygamy so that I could have a sister wife to help me do the housework. That sounds like a good deal. Like,
well,
instead of
women-
having a job, just doing half of one house's work.
Excuse me. Oh, sorry, wrong pipe. You actually admitted this, so it's public record, so I can bring it up. But I mean, you were in a poly, whatever you call it. But I mean, you were willing to share your man. So women are more likely willing to share a man than a man. Men don't really want to share a woman. That's just not the, how we, there's an evolutionary reason for that. That's the reason why, redheaded stepchildren get beat. And that's one of the reasons why children tend to favor their father in their looks. I don't know if you knew that. Generally, not always.
Really?
But yeah, that's the theory. There's no way to prove it, but that's like, you look at kids and they generally will favor the father in looks. And the theory behind that is that kids.
So is that some kind of?
think ahead.
Yeah, I heard where you were going with that logic, but we're having technical difficulties. Sorry to everyone for the dead air. This
Yeah, no,
glamping. I'm not really glamping.
the theory is that fathers, children who didn't favor their fathers, the fathers had less paternal investment back in caveman days, had less paternal investment in them, so they were less likely to provide resources for them. So those kids would die out. So that kids who did favor the father were more likely for the, to father to, because, it's kind of like Jews, they do the thing where Jewish, being Jewish is determined by the mothers, like the matrilineal line, not the paternal line, because you always know who the mother is, but who the father is, how do we know? You know what I'm saying? It could be the milkman, the mailman, the, whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty hard after 9 hours of labor for a woman to wonder where her kid came from.
Well, I saw Maury
Like-
Povich. Sometimes they don't know.
No, I mean maternally. If you have a child, you know it's your child if you're a woman, because you're pregnant for 9 months and then it hurts a lot and you scream and you might die. Well, back in the day, people still die in childbirth, but back in the day they died a lot more often. So that's kind of a memorable. You're not going to look at your kid a year later and go, "Huh, I wonder who the mother of this kid is. Was he cheating on me? Where'd this kid come from?" Like, if you're female, that's never going to be a thought that occurs to you.
Exactly. So that's kind of sums up the difference between the male and the female, is that the men. But back to this whole thing of because now we have there's like close to an equal balance of men and women, and there's actually under 25, there's more men than women. But if there was a culling, a war, and we haven't had a mass casualty war in a long time, World War I, World War II, it would bring this, women wouldn't have this bullshit of saying, oh, I wanted to be empowered and I want to be a career woman. I want to be, they'd be like, no, fuck that. I want a man,
Right, because men are scarce. So we wouldn't, so we would also have radioactive waste and zombies, and I don't know, are zombies worth getting rid of the incel problem? I'm not sure.
Well, if you're an
it's a
incel,
toss up.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on. Well, I mean, there's a lot of other things like there was actually, I didn't see the thing. I just saw the clip of it like on YouTube, but HBO apparently did a thing on. Incels is like, this is like ever since that psycho in Toronto mowed down a bunch of people. Although there was Elliot Rodger and then there was whatever. But they did a special on it, and I only saw like the excerpt that they put for free on YouTube, and maybe I'll download it or something because I don't have HBO. But they are saying that this is kind of it's a symptom of a larger issue, I guess you could say, the incel thing.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's a symptom of a bunch of different issues. I mean, I'm a bit too tired to go into all of the possible ones that come to mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a whole thing about I just found it fascinating because I was kind of like saying, well, if you look at like now they're complaining, like women are complaining about men now saying that there's no what they call marriageable men, like they don't make enough money. So, and the reason they don't make enough money is because all these fucking women have entered the workforce, right? So it's like, I think you talked about that once a long time ago. I think it might have been the first time I interviewed you, which is like 4 years ago or some shit like that. And you were talking about how I think you had, when you were younger.
Yeah, I mean,
I was going to say, when you were younger, you said you had interactions with like older women that were feminists, kind of, trying to tell you, and you were like, no, like the whole idea of like having him, like if I just got to keep house and he goes out, like I think you decided this division of labor like worked out really well for a long time. Why did we have to fuck it up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no economist, but it's pretty economically ignorant to ignore the consequences of basically doubling the labor force. I mean, I have a friend who's sort of a historical economist, economical historian who's kind of become disillusioned with the entire field of economics. So take anything I say with a grain of salt. But we have seen wages significantly or stagnate since, women entered the workforce permanently and in droves, not just prior to marriage. If you were taught the law of supply and demand in high school, which may or may not be bullshit, but if it's not bullshit, then it's a pretty simple conclusion that if you suddenly double the paid workforce, you're going to slash wages unless, and a lot of jobs that are going to be added are going to be nannying and daycare. My God, my mom worked in daycare. I think she made minimum wage. Like, these aren't high wage jobs that you're adding for, and maids, and maids that come in once a week for people who live in maid, even though they've got two people working. I mean, it's poor division of labor. I mean, it doesn't really matter I don't morally care which gender or which member of the household goes out and earns a living. It just kind of worked out neatly that, we had the hunters go out and hunt for money, and I'm probably getting this all scientifically fucked. Don't listen to me. I'm tired. But you know what I'm saying. Like, we had a pretty decent division of labor. And now we have a lot of families where mom and dad both work and nobody has time to take care of the home. They wind up spending all this money on daycare and a maid anyway, and everybody's stressed out. They're both working, and who's going to take the kids to school? And they got all these practical details that nobody has time to take care of, and it's a mess.
Yeah, and I think you also said something to the effect that people were more invested in each other, both the husband and wife team. It was kind of like they formed this symbiotic relationship for survival, where they both needed each other. Where now relationships are what's the word?
Right.
Like anybody just well, I'm not too happy with it, so I just go and because I think like the first like really long-term relationship you had, like you were content with that, as far as I understand. Like, I mean, you don't have to get into details, but I mean, you were like, yeah, okay, this is cool. I mean, you're the man, I'm the woman. Yeah. Like, I mean, you had problems like everybody else, but you were like, no, this works. Yeah. We both. But now women are like, no, I want something better. I want this.
And something just occurred to me. What's even worse is worked 9 to 5, and the mom and dad could spend time together in the evening. It would be one thing, but I've known a lot of couples where he worked maybe 9 to 5, or he worked earlier than that, and she was maybe a nurse or something and worked the night shift, and they spent time together like once a week. In a situation like that, you're going to have a closer relationship with your coworkers than you are with the person you're raising children with. You spend 80 hours a week with your coworkers and like 3 with your husband.
Yeah. How can you really bond then? Right. I mean, and also if you're like, let's say the wife is a nurse and the husband is, let's say, an office drone, what their lives are, I don't know. There's nothing really going on. I mean, they're not talking about like, I mean, basically it used to be like a guy would, let's say, be a bus driver, and they would, it used to be like a bus driver could support a family of 4 just driving a bus, because his wife would, I don't know, I guess she would stay home. She would raise the kids. She would clip coupons. She would do all that. And he would kind of give her the check. Like that was kind of her job. Like he would make the money and she would spend it, but it wasn't in a like a feminist way. Like he would go out there and it's kind of like the equivalent of going out there and killing the mastodon and bringing back the meat and she cooks it. You know what I mean? Like it was fair. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, or even bringing back the mastodon and she takes the extra meat and goes out to buy berries with it.
Yeah. I like, yeah, like she exchanged it for something else. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I was getting at with the hunter gatherer thing, but then I realized, well, there's a division between hunter gatherer societies and then agrarian societies and then industrial societies and then societies that all live on the internet until they go insane, which is what the situation we're in now.
Well, actually, a quick aside, and then we're going to end the broadcast. But for those who don't know, one of my fascinations is prehistory. And there was a fascinating discovery that was made several years ago called Göbekli Tepe. I may be mispronouncing it, but it's Turkish technically it means pot-bellied hill. And it was a monolithic, like a monolith type of thick Stonehenge, but like 10 times the size of that, and dating back to 11,500 BC. Now, the interesting thing about this was, according to archaeologists, they said that people couldn't build grand structures like the pyramids, things like that, until the invention of what they call modern agriculture, because all that people used to just quote unquote hunt and gather. They didn't settle down. And the theory behind that is that you couldn't have a division of labor, like people couldn't learn how to become, let's say, stonemasons if they had to spend all their time hunting and gathering. So it wasn't until you had an excess amount of food that people could have specialized skills and things of that nature. Then they discovered this, and it totally threw everything out the window, showing that people could build massive structures. And people were artisans. They drew art. They did all these things. They made pottery. And the question remains, how did they do this in a time period where you had to hunt and gather constantly just to have enough food? Anyway.
Yeah. That, before we close out, that reminds me of a fun fact. Well, actually, an absolutely amazing fact that I learned just today. Apologies to anyone that I'm way behind. Sure, when they discovered this, I just, before we went on the air, because somebody told me about it, I'm not sure how new or old the discovery is, but there is not just one, but a series of 5,000-year-old underground cities in Turkey that is just amazing. It's 5,000 years old, which, where does that fit in on hunter-gatherer to agrarian timeline elsewhere in the world? It's just if you're bored tonight, everybody Google it. It's amazing shit you've ever seen. It's multi-story caves underground that people lived in. They don't know how they saw down there. They had this crazy ventilation system, and one of them is big enough that 20,000 people and their livestock could fit in it. Like, it's multi-story series of tunnels. I guess if you lived there, you just memorized the maze when you were a child. And there are several mile-long tunnels linking several of these cities underground. And it's got to sound like I'm completely bullshitting. Image search, and you will want to plan a vacation to Turkey, because that's now on my bucket list.
That is so
I'm not sure where that
cool.
fits in with.
As far as
Isn't
the
it?
time period, yes. As far as the time period goes, modern agriculture, the dates back to around 5,000 years ago. So I guess, like, Samaria, somewhere around that, like, Samaria, Babylonia, Syria, that those kind of the Fertile Crescent, and then Egypt.
Right. So it's right around the same time.
Right. But now we're not really sure. That's what's really cool about what they call prehistory, is there's so many, like the idea that, how do I say it? That civilizations all formed and I guess it'd be like you play Civ 5 or whatever that is, or something like that. The porn game.
Yeah.
Well, like the idea that all civilizations would be developing at the same rate is bullshit, because some would develop, they would have these major leaps in technology, and others would be really stagnant for thousands of years. And I saw this one video where they said that I forget what happened, but there was one city where they I think it was Hammurabi, who actually instituted public schools. So everybody everybody became literate. So there was this huge explosion in learning. And then like when he died, they got rid of the public schools. So all of a sudden, like a lot of knowledge was lost because people could no longer read the shit that their people had written down before them. You know what I mean? So, interesting things like that. You know, they could no longer even read the Code of Hammurabi.
Wow.
So, but anyway, we're going to end
That's
it here
sad.
because I'm boring people. But tune into my other podcast, John
No, you're
Steele's. John Steele. I'm not boring you, but I'm boring other people. But John Steele's prehistory lessons. But anyway, tune in again. Our future show Anne might be going dark, but she'll keep us posted. We don't know how long she's going to be dark, but she will be back. She definitely will be back. Just so you all know that.
Yeah.
And I am
I'll
going
be back
to link
as soon
to,
as I've,
I'm gonna link. Sorry, Anne, I'm interrupting you. I'm gonna link to Anne's. All her stuff is gonna be in the description, so you can buy her books, you can read her articles, and I'll have links to the Patreon there. You give her money. I'm gonna put down the Amazon wish list. There's a specific item there that's gonna be obviously just for Anne. Anyway, peace out. Take care.